Hey, everybody. Hope you're well. For those who don't know, my name is Dave Ives. The reason I want to share this video with you is very simply. I know many of you have great aspirations about being successful in this industry, with Zinzino, but personal growth is a major influencer on how high, how far we go, and how big a community we build. Zinzino is an incredible vehicle. In my 14-year career, I've never been happier of the leadership, the product, the infrastructure, but we still got to learn how to communicate, to build relationships. And so each week, along with all the other calls and meetings that we arrange to help and support the community, from customer presentations. So you may not even know how to share the opportunity from a product perspective because you may be brand new. We have customer presentations, opportunity presentations. We have many meetings that are arranged to support you in your early days. And as your teams grow, to continue to use those because numbers build numbers. And your influence and my influence can only go so far. If we're going to build a life-changing, significantly impacting opportunity, it's going to take a large number of people. And throughout that, you're going to have different personalities. Some you'll connect with, some you won't. Some you'll learn to understand, some who'll learn to understand you. And so each week we run a mindset call. It's 8 p.m. UK. And this is an extension and an invitation to you to invite you that no matter what market you're in, some of the times may be a little bit unsuitable, but if you want to join us each week at 8 p.m. UK on a Sunday, we have a mindset call. Now that mindset call is actually content from Art Jonah, who is the US general manager for Zinzino, but personal friends with the founder, Orjan and Hilde Saele. They created a community called the Mastermind. Now that's been going for a number of years, and over the years, they've created amazing content. And each day I choose to listen to valuable information from successful people as I keep pulling these out to show you that my car is full of these CDs. I'd rather put good stuff in. There's season 9, season 8. Then listen to what's going on because a lot of the things that I put in my mind can influence whether I grow or can create procrastination because we listen to the environment. So if we prepare this and we develop this, and many of us, and I'm 53 years young, many of us will get to an age where we don't believe we need to learn anymore. Well, that's the key to creating your success in this industry. Not the product, not the test-based nutrition, not Zinzino, not the logistics, but the way we think, how we develop, and how we develop others around us. So the reason I'm doing this recording is because each week we do have a mindset call, but most recently heard the most powerful content from funny enough, our founders, Hilde and Orjan Saele. I want to share that with you. I want to share that with you so you can maybe take some notes, that you can maybe listen to the teachings. Now, a lot of teachings are told through a story process or a topic matter, but I want you to listen. I would love you to hear the training, the wisdom that's interwoven into the content of this call. In addition to that, I want to invite each and every one of you. I want to give you a challenge. Hopefully that you've downloaded the PDF in your back office or you've got a physical copy of your Express Start brochure. This is, in my personal opinion, the best content of getting started, support material, guidance, and knowledge in 84 pages that I've seen in 14 years. But page 74, leadership. 75 talks about the philosophies of leadership. I would love to challenge you that if you are invited to watch and you are watching this link right now, yes, enjoy the content of this video and the audio that I'm going to share with you momentarily, but I challenge you within 72 hours of watching this and hearing about this, I will challenge you to read page 74 to 79. When we understand that if we're going to succeed, it's going to take more people beyond ourselves. And that's why personal growth is important. The philosophy of systems and duplication, because so many will try things like this on their own, do it their way. And sadly, they never achieve much with their opportunity. So I want you to understand that we are here for you. We want to help you. We want to help you develop yourself. We also want to help you develop your business, but our businesses will never grow beyond our thinking. So this talk from Hilde and Orjan Saele is full of incredible content. I'd encourage one more time. Don't listen to the accent. Don't listen to the inappropriate grammars, because I'm the world's worst at that. But listen to the knowledge and the wisdom and the lessons that are being taught that are interwoven through their talk. I'd encourage you also to come join us on a weekly basis. Invest in you, invest in yourself, and then encourage others to do the same, because that's what's going to take your businesses way beyond what you can possibly achieve on your own. So now I'm going to go and share the audio with you. Enjoy it. I would encourage you again, take notes, because when you go back to read these notes a month from now, 6 months from now, and you've personally grown yourself, you're going to see something different that you may have overlooked the first time around. Enjoy it, and I wish you all the success. I welcome you one more time to come join us each week on the calls that we put on at no charge, free to you, other than the time you invest in yourself to grow, so you can become the best version of you possible, to be able to work with the best people around to impact the most people possible too. Enjoy the audio, and I'll look forward to hearing all your feedbacks over the coming months as I get to meet you, get to see you, and get to know you, and see what made an impact in your life.
You are listening to the Network Marketing Mastermind Event 7 Live Collection. Are You a Hero or a Leader by Hilde Saele, followed by 5 Vital Behaviors by Orjan Saele. This talk was given in front of a live audience in Houston, Texas.
So, this is going to be an exciting hour. We've been waiting for this moment for a long time to get up here to be able to share a few things with you that we have on our hearts. During this weekend, I've been so inspired because I feel a sense of energy and a sense of urgency in this crowd that hasn't been in any of the other network marketing masterminds that we have been to. So I vision that we will have people all across this room going from wherever you've been to then hitting 10,000 a month, 20,000 a month, 30,000 a month. And I see some people that are going to hit 100,000 a month, and it's going to happen faster than you thought it was possible. But to get everything started, I have to introduce a person to you. And she's standing right here, so she's not hidden. But she is just the most amazing person in my life. She's a dynamic speaker. She's an incredible organizer. And she is just the person that when everybody else has gone to bed at our big events, she is there with the computer, with the sound guys, and organizing and putting everything together. She's so hardworking, she's so incredible, but most of all, I'm the luckiest guy on earth that has Hilde Saele as my wife. So welcome, Hilde.
Growing up, my father often said, if you want something done right, you'd better do it yourself. I absolutely love my dad, and he is also a mentor for me. But this particular sentence has probably been one of the sentences that has caused me most challenges when building my business. In the beginning of my career, I was more or less always building learned helplessness. And it's kind of embarrassing to say it, but I kind of enjoyed it too, because I got to be the hero. I got to be in the spotlight. So I was the one booking the most meetings. I was the one that signed the most contracts. If someone had a problem, I was the first to volunteer to fix the problem. So what I'm going to share with you today is a message that totally changed everything for me. And it took me about 5 years to really implement it into my business. But when I first started to implement it in the business, it totally exploded my results. So what I'd like you to think through during my speech is, are you building a crowd or are you building a team? In other words, are you being the hero or are you being the leader? I absolutely love my MacBook. When I finally changed my Nokia to iPhone, which took Orjan about a year to convince me to do, because of course I thought Nokia from Scandinavia, Finnish Nokia, was the safest choice, right? But after I changed, I must say that I am absolutely addicted. I love all of Apple's products. And it's been kind of incredible to see, because over the last 10 years, especially in Europe at least, that's where I'm from, I've seen that there's been developing a group of fans that keeps getting more and more excited. So when Steve Jobs was presenting Apple's latest product on stage, people were so fired up about it. And actually a few years ago, it was also, I remember like about 5 years ago, Apple wasn't very known, at least not in Scandinavia. So when I was at a party or I met someone I didn't know and we started to talk and I found that they were using Mac and also opposite, we suddenly became friends, you know? We had something to talk about. We were buddies. So the big question are, why do people get so excited about Apple? And how have they managed to build such an incredible, strong community? And I do believe that the reason they've made it happen is because they make you the leader. Back in my PC years, I always needed to have an IT dude coming over to fix my technical problems. But after I switched, I now can manage to more or less fix my own problems. And the reason is because whatever challenge you have, there is always an app for it. And Apple has gotten the whole world involved in developing solutions. And that's also one of the things that I think are our biggest challenge in our profession, because very often we don't involve the team enough. We don't give them the opportunity to be part of the solution because we want too much to be the hero. A friend of mine who is a musician played for a long time in a big symphony orchestra. You know, not the small type of orchestra, but not the chamber orchestra type, but the big one. With over 100 people playing together. Thinking about her reminds me of a story that I heard a long time back. Because at one point, one of the biggest orchestras in Europe was gathered. And they were sitting waiting for their conductor to arrive. They were going to have their morning practice. And they were filled with anticipation because the conductor that was coming to train them was one of Europe's best conductors. And he had also promised to bring them a new masterpiece, unlike anything he had ever written before. So when he finally shows up, he's going around giving everyone a score. And when they look at the notes, they look at it in kind of surprise, because although the scores contains notes, there are more rests than notes. But they kind of think, well, he probably must have a plan. He's one of the best. But they really couldn't figure out who would have the lead part in the play. However, when they started to play, they very soon realized that no one had the lead. So the trumpets would play for a few measures, then the trombones would take over, then the clarinets and the flutes would play. And although it was kind of like it had some resemblance, and it was kind of a beautiful melody, it didn't have the feeling of an orchestra. And the longer they played, the stranger the music became. When I think of the opposite of a team, I think of a crowd. And one definition of a crowd say that it's a large group of people gathered together, typically in a disorganized and unruly way. And very often, in our profession, I feel that people that are treating or building their business as a crowd are often distributors with very good intentions. They have dreams and they have goals, but they lack structure and a strategy for duplication. So, the big question are, how can we recognize if we are building our business as a crowd? Or how can we recognize if we're building our business like a hero? Actually, sitting in the back of the room during Randy's opening speech this day, I thought to myself, he stole my speech. And then I realized maybe I stole Randy's speech. I love you, Randy. But maybe you've found yourself in a situation like this. Maybe you've started up a group, or maybe you started up several groups that don't duplicate, and you never get them to duplicate. Or maybe you have someone in your team, or you yourself are suffering from the idea of the week syndrome, where you come up with new ideas all the time to make the process go faster. Or maybe you started up a group in one city that expanded to another, and then the first group experienced a slow death. So, how can we solve this? I remember growing up, my brother and little sister, they loved to play soccer. On my brother's team, there was a particular player named, I think his name was William. And William was a pretty good player, but he really annoyed my brother because every time he got the ball, he was like treating it like it was gold. So even though there were other team players right in front of the goal, he refused to pass the ball. And like I said, William was a good player, and very often he scored. But also often he caused his team to lose the game. That's also because he wanted to be the hero, right? So, and by looking back, about 2 years, I think it was about 2 years into my networking journey, I decided, I had quit law school to go full-time with network marketing, and I couldn't manage to survive of the money that was coming in because I was traveling a lot and I had to take a full-time job to support the building of my business. So I decided I wanted to have a sales job. And it was an all commission-based sales job. I remember I got this fancy title, Key Account Manager. Yeah, it was not something fancy. But at least I realized that I was pretty good at selling. Because the first month I was making about $15,000. And that was pretty good, being only 21 years old. So my ego was kind of boosting, right? So what I did was that because of my proudness, because I managed to do so well in sales, I brought my sales philosophy into my networking business. So suddenly I found myself in a situation where I built codependent distributors instead of independent distributors. And suddenly I was also living the life that more or less the phrase I heard from my father during my childhood repeatedly, if you want something done right, you better do it yourself. An ancient philosopher, Lao Tzu, he once said this famous quote, and you've probably heard it several times before, but he said, give a man a fish, feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, and feed him for a lifetime. And at one point in my networking journey, I believe it was about 5 years into it, I finally understood that I had to change. I had to stop trying to be the rescuer, saving people all the time, being the one in the spotlight. And I had to increase my leadership skills. And that was also when I understood that my true success came from how many people I managed to get to become independent leaders that was connected to my leadership. And also in the same process, I understood what Randy talked about earlier on this morning, the balance of being the salesperson versus being the teacher. Because while the salesperson, the hero, is a typical performer, busy thinking about this week's contracts. How many contracts have I signed myself? What is this month's paycheck? The teacher, as the leader, are thinking in a different way, because the teacher are asking different questions. Is asking questions, how can I grow into a better leader? How can I help my people to become independent? How can I build competence? How can I lead to a system, a tool, instead of me being the message all the time? How can I help everyone become part of the solution, like Apple? Of course, I'm not saying that you should stop to help your team, right? Because you should always be in the position where you are showing taillights. That's always our first priority. But to build a growing business and a sustainable business, you have to build a strong team. And a team has to have an organizational structure where responsibilities and tasks are defined. And there has to be a clear leadership where everything is based on meritocracy instead of your own ideas. And I believe Apple is a great example of that, because they have a clear leadership. One of the things that I truly, truly admired about Steve Jobs, like I said earlier on, was that instead of him being the hero all the time, he was a person that managed to build an incredible team at Apple. And he got the community to market the product. And that's why people like I go around saying, I love Apple's products. I love my MacBook. And I certainly do not earn a dime telling you that I do it. But I truly do. So you remember the orchestra. About 5 minutes into them playing, the conductor is laying down his batoon, and he stops them. And then he asks, "What's wrong? Don't you like the music?" And the room is silent. And there is this awkward silence where you could hear a pen drop. And the answer is pretty obvious, because you could see the looks around in the room. After about a minute, he's starting to laugh. And then he says, "Just wait for a second." And then he goes out, comes in again, and he is again having his arms filled with notes, going around giving each player a score. And when they now look at the notes, you can see that each face are lighting up with anticipation. Because even though they're almost the same as the other notes, now the rests are less. They are considerably fewer. And when they start to play, a beautiful, absolutely beautiful melody comes out. Playing for a few minutes, he stops them again. And then he says, "So do you realize what I've done? During the first score, one of you played a little, then the second, but you never really played together. And I did it to show you that each part is important, but meaningless without the rest. Because when each of you are playing the right notes at the right time, that's when the beautiful melody comes together. That's when each and every one of us gets highlighted. And that's the way music is created. And then he concludes saying, this is the way music is supposed to sound. And I believe that our jobs as leaders in this amazing profession is to help our team players, our leaders, to play their part. We all will get our minutes in the spotlight, right? But to truly build a sustainable growing business that will last for 7 generations, like Dana was talking about yesterday, it's time for us to step out of being the hero, building the crowd, and step up to be the true leader. And you'll notice that when you do that, people in your team will start to shine. And you'll notice that they will be as excited about your company as you are, and that I am for my company and my MacBook. Thank you so much. I'd like to introduce the next speaker for you. I met him at a business presentation and opportunity meeting in November 2000. And it truly became a very big opportunity for me. He is the most amazing person that I know. He is my rock. And he is my best friend, the biggest blessing in my life. Please welcome my husband, Orjan Saele.
Okay, we got to go back to 1519, and a young artist gets an assignment from a name that I can't pronounce. And the assignment is to paint a picture for the celebration of the firstborn son. And this picture gets started, but it never gets finished. And the young artist starts to move around, and he never got paid for the picture. And then eventually he ends up in France. And in France, 16 years later, Leonardo da Vinci is finishing up the painting, the Mona Lisa. But in the 16th century, there was nobody talking about the Mona Lisa. In the 17th century, we didn't even know about it. At least not me, because I wasn't born. And then in the 18th century, there was at least 10 artists that were more famous than him. But then came the French Revolution, and the Mona Lisa ended up in the Musée du Louvre, something like that. I can't say that. I've been practicing that since I was in Paris this summer, and it's so difficult. And we even work with French people daily, and this is like really horrible. But somewhere in that museum, that painting is ending up there, but nobody is talking about it. Nobody knows about it. It's just a tiny little thing on the wall somewhere. But then, in 1911, the Mona Lisa was going to make herself famous. She was just dying on that wall to say that I want to be the famous painting of the world. So it got an Italian worker to steal itself. He put it under his couch after work hours, and he carried it out because he thought that the French had robbed the Italians. And since they've robbed it, he should bring it back to Florence, where it belonged, and it should be in an art gallery in Italy. And as many thieves have found out that famous things are hard to sell, he got caught down in Florence about 2 years later. And it was found in his apartment when he was trying to sell it to an art gallery. And now the Mona Lisa started to get a little bit of traction. She was starting to show herself This painting that never got to be anything, wasn't even delivered to the person that ordered it. No, started to bloom because it was on a tour all through Italy for 2 years before it would come back to the du Louvre, something like that. I have no idea. And when it makes it back, it's just placed on the wall, but now with a little bit more security. And people start traveling to visit it. And then, a few years later, it would really start taking off. Because there was one guy coming up to the smile of the Mona Lisa, clearly agitated, clearly irritated, clearly thinking that this is something wrong with this painting. So he had brought a bucket of acid. And as well as he could, he threw acid on the painting. And the alarms went off. Well, what kind of alarms they had back then, I don't know. But they were trying to save that painting. And no, this was a news. So all across the news, it was spreading the message about the Mona Lisa. Then a guy got so irritated of it being in the news all the time. So he brought rocks into the museum to throw rocks at it. And that was in 1919. And that caught a young artist of France to catch up to this painting. And he was starting to making imitations of it. So he would draw the Mona Lisa with a mustache. Then he would draw the Mona Lisa with a goat cheese. Then he would draw the Mona Lisa with a different smile. And all of a sudden this was spreading across the world. And Mona Lisa now was behind a glass counter. And it was the highest security picture in the building. And when I was there this summer, I must say that, like the other 6 million that go into the Louvre, I can't say that, sorry, the Louvre, something like that. But like, good, we'll all practice this. Okay, all of you say it. You're fantastic, you should be up here. But that's all the other ones, like, no, it was the highest security, and I was getting in there like 6 million other people just excited to get to see that Mona Lisa. And when I walked across and saw all the other paintings, and I saw like a few other paintings of Da Vinci, and I must say that quite honestly, when I came up there, and behind about 280 people with cameras, I could see it all the way on the back of the wall if I was standing like this. And my father-in-law tried to jump behind the shine. It's like that, and I would take a picture and jump at the same time. Just to capture the fame of this picture. It's been the painting that most people have copied. It's been the painting that people have tried to build their own fame on. I mean, even NASA here in Houston, when they discovered a big crater on, I think it was some planet. I think it was the planet Venus. They called it the crater of the Mona Lisa. And then all the artists would copy it, and they will try to make fame for themselves. But every time it got copied, every time somebody tried to raise the fame, the Mona Lisa took the fame back and grew bigger. And today, its insurance is 700 million. And people come to see it from all across the world. Today we're going to talk about something that really, really does excite me. And the thing that excites me about this is that when we've seen this conference going through 1.5 days now, you've had some incredible people on stage. Would you agree? And I've been in the back of the room of big conferences. I mean, to meet Orjan about a few years back, we first met him shortly in the mastermind. Then we went to one of his conventions, and we were sitting there, and we met him like 1:30 in the morning just to have a few words with him. That's kind of crazy, isn't it? But the anticipation, the hunger to be like the presenters on stage can be really big. I remember first time seeing Randy Gage in 1997. Well, truth be told, the impression that I got from that MLM Power Weekend was just incredible. But it keeps on coming to my mind. Do I really have to be as good as a presenter as Randy to be able to build the check in this business? Do we need to be a leader like Orjan to be able to go to the top ranks? Later on tonight, you'll see Donna Johnson coming on stage here. She's a legend. Just incredible. And she's going to be up here, and she's made more money than we can count. And she's going to be up here inspiring you, putting sparks into you. And like back to Randy, with all the knowledge and all the systems, isn't that quite incredible how he can do the 7-7-7 and we can actually follow him for the full 90 minutes. And then we've got Jordan Adler. He says that if an 8-year-old can't do it, you probably shouldn't do it either. Nick Cernicola, they've built everything they've built on simplicity. And you see him coming up here, you know that something is going for them. When you see somebody moving like crazy like this and speaking for the whole hour. But that's exciting. But do we need to be that kind of a person to make it to the top? People have talked about Chris Brady. Tomorrow he's going to be the entertainer. That's a quality that he owns that is just incredible. And then we have Tom, the teacher, that tells us how everything is put together. Like we get to know stuff about ourselves that we didn't even know was there. Wasn't that quite exciting? And then look at my wife. What I did to deserve her must have happened in another life. Or there is somebody up there that is just loving me hugely. She is a rock star. She's a friend. She's a business partner. She's amazing. But do you need really to be like that? Do you need to be a networker like Art Jonak? To me, Art is more the friend than the networker, though. I mean, he is doing this to help us grow. But I can tell you the friendship with him has just changed me in so many ways. But all of these qualities, are they vital for your success? And that's the question that I want to ask today. Are these qualities something that you need to possess if you want to succeed? And I believe, quite truthfully, no. They're what makes them as individuals unique and great. That's what makes us being able to have a conference like this, because they're exciting, they're entertaining, and they're incredible individuals. But the vital behaviors, which I want to address, is none of those that I've mentioned. And today we're going to look at 5 vital behaviors that can take all of you from where you are today to build an income that would actually give you all your dreams. Wouldn't that be exciting? And with a response like that, I'd say that you need to get a bigger dream, friends. Like a dream, when I talk about a dream, it should be something that when you wake up in the morning, you just light up. You start smiling, you get excited. Like I'm waking up in the morning and thinking about our dreams. I'm going, yes, I can't wait for this day. So if you're not feeling that, write down a bigger dream this weekend and start believing that that will become true. It is not enough to do your best. First, you must know what to do and then do your best. I've heard so many times that people talk about, well, I've done my best, and I've done everything that I could, but still I can't get my check up there. I can't sponsor people. But it's not enough to do your best. First, you must know what to do and then do your best. And that's what this conference is about, is finding out exactly what to do. And then we're going to go back home on Sunday and we're going to start doing those things, and we will create some amazing stories. And I want us all to tell those when they appear, because I want to hear those stories, because they are going to be very exciting. So let's define what vital behaviors are. A few years back, when I was 30, I weighed 105 kilos. That would be like 235 pounds. So you could see me better back then. The results are positive to everything. But getting on a diet, I had to decide to start exercising, and I had to start to do a lot of things to actually get those pounds off me. And in that, I've just had a lot of things going on. And the way I realized that it was time to do it, do you know how I realized that it was time to lose weight? It was just before I turned 30. I was in our apartment, and I was going out, and it was kind of in the spring sometime, and I was putting on my shoes, and I had to sit down and tie my shoelaces. Then I stood back up, and I had a breath. When you get tired from tying your shoelaces, it's time to change, isn't it? At 85, that might be okay, but at 30 or 29, that's not okay. So I woke up. I needed to do something. But what is the vital behavior if we look at weight loss? I love candy. I love chocolate. Anybody in here loves chocolate? Let's show your hands, everyone. We don't want to have any liars left. Okay, so I love chocolate. And I thought that I had to give up chocolate. And then I also understood that I had to get on an exercise program. And I understood that I got to do something with my fitness if I wanted to lose weight. Could you agree? But the question is, what is the vital behavior? Is it to give up chocolate, or is it to exercise? And the way we find the vital behaviors is that we look at what is those people that already have the success doing. So I had to go and look at she's not here anymore, my wife. I had to look at her because she was eating chocolate. She was buying the chocolate. She was making all this paint me. And then, in addition to buying the chocolate, after I'd grabbed the piece of chocolate, she would say nice words like this. Are you ready for a few? I don't know if you are ready for this, but she would say something like that. If you don't stop eating that now, you will explode. And then I said, well, you have to stop buying it. It's your fault. It's so easy to be the victim. But I had to grow a responsibility. So I started exercising, and that was really difficult. So in exercising, there is also vital behaviors. And one of the things that I think all of you could see quite clearly, if I was practicing for a marathon, and every time I would run like this. What would you say to me? What would be your correction? So there is vital behavior to exercising as well. And I had to figure out those. And by observing Hilde, I found that eating the chocolate doesn't matter. But the vital behavior is exercising. And then actually, through research, some English people came up with 3 vital behaviors for losing weight. Anybody want to write this down? This is good. 3 vital behaviors to weight loss. 1, eat a big breakfast every morning. That's what all the slim people do, and all of those that are losing weight do. And if you have a nutritious shake in your company, eat the shake as well. Then, number 2, weigh yourself daily. So every day you would weigh yourself. You want to keep score. By the way, this is one of the reasons why we are losing, is when we don't keep score. If I took the game of soccer, any soccer lovers in here? We've got the whole 4 of you. Welcome to America. Chris Brady is coming tomorrow. He'll understand me. But if I took that game and we took away the scoreboard, or let's go to basketball so you can relate to me. And you were sitting there at the basketball game, and every time they would hit it, there would happen nothing. No scoreboard. What would happen? How excited would we be about it? They scored. Great. They scored. Great. Oh, fantastic. They got a goal. Yeah, that number 9, he's doing pretty well today. we would lose track of which team was playing. It would have no interest to us. So the second one was to weigh yourself daily. And I can tell you, there has been morning, even though I have my dreams, I'd come out, and under our toilet is the weight, and I'm supposed to pull that out. And I'd stare at that thing, and I'd say, oh, your little digital dream stealer. And then I'd push it. And then I want to go away from it because I know that I've been cheating on my dreams. And then I'd grab myself back in and then get on it. And every time I did that, it would show some more kilos. And I'd go back off. And then I'd very lightly get back to it. And I would lose like a kilo. And I'd be so happy. Weigh yourself daily and then have exercise equipment so you can see it, so that you will exercise daily. Let's look further into the example. One candy bar is 285 calories. So if you do that every day, 365 days a year, through 5 years, that's 520,000 calories. A half an hour run is burning off for most people around 300 calories. So if nothing's changed, and you exercised and you had the candy bar, you will lose about 10 pounds in those 5 years. But nothing else changed, and you just have the candy bar and no exercise, and you didn't change anything during those 5 years. It was just the addition of the 285 calories a day. You'd gain 168 pounds. It's easy to gain weight. But the same lesson teaches us that if we have the vital behavior of exercising, it's easy to lose weight. And today I'm about 80 kilos. I don't know how much that is in pound, but 175, 180, something like that, I'm not sure. And I'm still going to lose a few more, okay? Thank you. But when I go through our 5 vital behaviors for our profession, I want you to know that there is a minimum quantity that you have to put in. So if I was making my diet in a way where the minimum quantity of the gap between what I'm burning and what I'm taking in is not large enough, what will happen is that the body will readjust itself and keep the weight on. So there will be a minimum quantity for us to be able to say that you have adopted the vital behavior. And both the quality and the quantity of how you do it will also affect your result. So if I was exercising daily and I would have my run foot, that quality wouldn't be good enough for me to actually say that I have the vital behavior of exercising. Are you with me? So number 1 is being teachable. Is about personal development. And let's look at this. There are 3 kinds of men. The ones that learn from books, the ones that learn from observing others, and the ones that have to experience for themselves and go over and stand and pee at the electric fence. But if you look at that, and this is taken from a book that is called The Influencer. It's a good read if you want to learn something about the vital behaviors. But are you the kind of person that will sit down and learn and study and read and listen? Are you going to be the kind of person which Orjan and Chris in the Leadership Revolution book calls a hungry, honorable, and honorable person? Are you willing to go in and put in the half an hour a day that it takes? Are you willing to travel to seminary like this, conferences like this, at least a few times a year? I mean, there are so many people that should have been here that are not here. And they're in my team and they're in your team. So are you that kind of a person that is willing to become teachable? That's what I recognize when I talk to the faculty, is that they all are here to learn. They want to get better. They want to be hungry. They want to be shaped. Let's just look a little bit deeper into it. By doing that, I'm going to make some fun of my wife too, which I like. She is amazing, isn't she? She's so perfect. And like from standing up here, you would never think that she would do anything wrong in her whole life. But I know her. And if you go and see her shopping at IKEA, the Swedish furniture company, where the idea is that you'd pack everything flat and then bring it back home in your own car, and then you'd put it together yourself. When you open those boxes from IKEA, have anybody tried that? Okay, a few of you have tried it. You open those boxes, there is the first thing you will see is the instructions. And the first thing she will do is to throw them behind her back. And then she'll put her head into it and start looking at this and spread them all over the floor. And then she'd get the toolbox from the basement, and she'll be sitting there with all of these tools and being really excited about it and putting everything together. And then at the end, when she's put everything together, and she's got like, I forgot to use the glue. No worries about that, but why did I send so many bolts? And she's like having her garage sale on IKEA tools. Not really, I made that up. But then I have to go all the time and like, the shelf is falling apart again. The shelf is falling apart again. The shelf is... And I have to go and correct it all the time because we didn't follow the instructions. We put our head in first instead of first knowing what to do. I had the biggest blessing in my life happen to me before I even realized it. I got it before I was born, I think. But I didn't discover it before I was like probably 11, 12 years old. And nobody really understood it back in the 80s. And I can't believe that I was that old in the 80s because I'm 23 today. Figure the math, those that can. But here is the thing. And that is that I was born with dyslexia. So when I delivered my first essay in school, the way I wrote it was quite humbling in itself because I really didn't know how to write when I was in 4th grade. And I wasn't a good story creator back then either. And my mom and dad were arguing with me for 14 days that I had to do it. So it ended up finally the last day, they couldn't just send me back to school without an essay. So it ended up my mom sitting down with me and my dad sitting down with me, and they would dictate and then I would write. And then they would dictate and I would write. And then they would dictate and I would write. And by the end of the night, probably about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, so this was kind of a fight, I was done with a one-page essay with big letters, with big writing, and I was so proud because I've accomplished it. And then I went to school, handed it in, and about a week later, I got it back, and when I got it back, I ran back home, and that afternoon, my parents was at home, and I sat them down by the kitchen table, and I threw that piece of paper on the table and said, what can I ever become? And as I did that, they grabbed it, and they must have been shocked, because, I got it back with a correction in red, in every single word, and even in my own name. And the thing that happened then was a magical moment in my life, and I want to share that with you because it's quite powerful. Because when I said, what can I ever become? My parents replied in a way that surprised me. I didn't think about it then, but it has surprised me ever after. And they have confirmed that I didn't make it up, okay? So they actually said this. They said, you can become whatever you want to become. You can become whatever you dream about becoming. So the action plan that was taken was quite brilliant because I loved making money. My first sales job was when I was 8 years old. I was selling newspapers for my dad. He was an editor of a newspaper, and I would go and knock on doors and sell it, and I could keep one kroner, which is like 10 cents per newspaper that I sold. And there was 52 doors to knock at, and I had 52 newspapers. So early in the morning, I would run around knocking on the doors and then sell it. But I was always left with about half of them. So when lunch came, I would take the rest of the doors, knock at those, change my presentation a little bit, and say that, would you like a newspaper for your lunch, sir? And when I came back to those stores that didn't buy, in the end of the night, about 9 o'clock in the evening, they all bought. So I loved making money. And I did that every day during my summer vacation in this special place that was 1 week every year. And I was excited the whole year in between for the 52 kroners that I would make every day. So they started paying me and rewarding me for reading books. And the story doesn't end with me having dyslexia. The story ends, well, it hasn't ended yet, lucky for me. But by the age of, but by the age of 24, I'd published my own book, and that book has sold more than 150,000 copies in the Scandinavian countries. Here is how it works. Here is what you got to watch when you want people to get into personal development. And this is taken from a study of school children actually here in America on their reading abilities. And what they found was that teachers that would praise instead of punishing would have a better success with their children. So if we praise instead of punishing people when they don't show up to the event, we will have a better success. And the second part was that teaching and testing more frequently worked better. So if we would bring people often to the exposure of these kind of classes, if we would teach them and give them CDs often, and if we would actually care enough to check if they read the book, our results is going to get higher. And those two are the two vital behaviors on how to getting school kids to read better. And my mom and dad didn't know that, but they did it, so I became an okay reader, and today I read 4 books a month. So, let's move on. The personal development, whatever you eat eventually eats you. You need a personal growth plan. Second one is each one reach one. We got to be a master recruiter. You have to get into the skill of recruiting. 3 times I built a check that have passed $100,000 a month. And actually, at one time, there was 2 checks from the same company that was over $100,000 a month. And it was the same ID number on both of them, figure out that. So it hasn't changed in ID number like people talk about changing companies. I believe in staying with the company you're in. That's the best company. I mean, we have 81 companies presented here. And here's what I know about your company. Are you ready? It has the best comp plan in the world. And secondly, it has the best product in the world. Like Randy said, if you believe it, it actually happens. But I've got some experience in building. I've got some experience in recruiting. I'm not a top master recruiter, but I've brought in over 90 people in my career. So I think you can actually go to the top of a comp plan 3 times, making more than 100 grand a month, if you learn to recruit as well as I've done, which is bringing in 90 people in 19 years. So that's not that difficult, is it? But most people come to me after they've brought in 3 and they don't want to recruit anymore. And so many people come to me, but why are you still recruiting, Orjan? I'm not a top leader and I don't want to keep on recruiting. I think taking the example of Jordan Adler, we had this discussion when we first met down in the lobby, and I asked him, so how is it going? And it's going great, it's growing steadily, stably, fantastic. Are you recruiting still? And he says, of course, I want to be somebody that shows my team. And I want to be a front runner. I want to show them that I'm doing it, so I'm bringing in 2 people a month. That's pretty incredible. if I could get to 2 people a month, oh, my check would go up. So I'm going to talk more with Jordan Adler about that. But the bottleneck to recruiting is to book the meetings. There is always a bottleneck in everything. And I see that people don't mind sitting in the meeting when they have the meeting, but when you are going to make the phone calls and call your own, it's so difficult, isn't it? Can anybody relate to that? Yep. Like, if you could just swap name lists with somebody else, wouldn't that be great? I mean, I'm looking at my name list and I'm reading those names, and I really don't like many of those names because for 19 years I've been reading those names. And it's hard to pick up the phone very often, isn't it? I've been there. I know what you're going through, but we sometimes just have to do it. We have to actually decide, I like that phrase, we have to decide to duct tape the phone to our ear. Wasn't that quite exciting? Like, we should all go around with duct tape. Well, we won't do that, but they can do that, okay? But duct tape the phone to your ear and start calling. Start doing it because it works. All of the people you'll see on the platform are master recruiters, and that is why that is a vital behavior. Here is how we get them to book. We make everybody write down a list, because first you got to identify who you want to call. If you don't know who you want to call, you're probably not going to do it. So I make them make a list of 100, and then we select the 30 that we're going to call right away, and that works for us. Then we got to teach them exactly how to do it. Because if I don't know how to do something, I get scared. And when Hilde brings home the IKEA things now, she screams, "Orjan, I'm home!" And I get to put together the IKEA things. Because we need to know exactly how to do it. And we've got a 5-step pattern for that, which is just greet, hi. And then you've got to clarify time and place first. And then you tell them why. And then you answer any question they have. And eventually, in the end, you will then confirm that you have a meeting. And this works. We will have probably, out of 10 phone calls, we'll get 8 meetings of those that picks up the phone. Is that pretty good ratio? Yeah. So what does most people do? Because this is a science behind it. Most people start at point number 3. Tell them what it is. And then they answer the questions, and then we try to confirm the meeting. Is that right? Anybody try that? So this sounds something like that. Ring, ring. Hi, Orjan. Ah, hi. Is it you, Orjan? Kind of confusing role-playing with myself, isn't it? But I'd go on then, yeah, you know, Orjan, I found this very exciting business that you just have to see. It's so incredible. I just got it. And what will Orjan answer? He'll say, oh, that's exciting. Tell me everything about it. And since I've been in the business for 1 day, I'll say, you know what? I really don't know that much about it, but you know, it's just very exciting, and we should really get together one day. And when I do that, Orjan will go, oh, is this something to do with like the other things you have done before? And then I'd go, no, it's nothing like that. You know, this is much better. Here you can get paid on the 10th level without any work at all. And I could say, no, I'm not interested. That is not going to work. You've tried this so many times before. And I go, no, but you know, if I just called my sponsor, I'm brand new in this. And I go, do I really want to join a brand new person in a business? And you won't get the meeting, because you asked them to give that reply. So what if the conversation went like this? Ring, ring. Hi, Orjan. Hi, how are you doing? Ah, I'm great today. I've got a whole audience watching myself, booking meetings with myself. Could we meet? Oh, sure, we can meet. What would be a good place and a good time? Would you like to meet tomorrow morning or tonight? Well, tonight is excellent. They always answer that. Give them a choice where they pick the one you want. Do you want to meet Thursday morning or Thursday evening? They'll all pick the evening. Isn't that better? Or most of them, at least. Some people, yeah, I won't go into that. So could we meet? Yeah, let's pick a place. Oh, let's go to Starbucks. Fantastic. I love coffee. So, The reason why I'm calling you is that I've got this very interesting business I want to show to you at the same time. And what will my reply be now? We're already going to meet. I know where we're going to meet. We picked a time to meet. I will say, great! See you tomorrow or see you tonight. Are you with me? Even if I had a difficult question, like said that I was pitched by this guy so many times, actually 7 times he pitched me. I joined every time. What if I would say now, oh, is this something with network marketing? Do you like network marketing? And I'd be, even if I was negative, no, I really don't. I'd go, fine, meet you tomorrow. Because we have confirmed the meeting. And I don't know what he means by network marketing. I could say, oh, is it something with sale? And I'd be over here and saying, is it something with sale? And I would say, do you like selling? And I would say, no, I really hate selling. Well, that's perfect. Let's meet tomorrow. Because we already have the time and place, I will tell them that they will get the answer tomorrow. If they start interrogating me, I'd say, you know what? I love to answer all of that. That's why we've set aside a full hour so that we can go through all your questions. And then they will actually be very excited about coming. And then we always confirm the meeting as the last part. I'll send you a text or have you written it down? I've got my sponsor with me. So I really want them to be able to meet you, and they're very brilliant in this business. So after you've found and they have a list, they need to know why. They need to have a clear, specific goal, and eventually they need somebody to lead them. Too few meetings in the organization because of lack of leadership. You need to make the sessions where you have the phone calling sessions or where you get them started so that they will actually book the meetings. And then becoming a master presenter. I think we got to realize that when we come to that presentation, we need to first of all make a friend. So when I sit down, it's all about making a friend first, because if you've made a friend, it's going to be so much easier. When you've made a friend, you've got to find a need. Because when you find a need, it's so much easier to transfer the feeling. So that's the 3 steps of the presentation. And we'll all have different presentations, but no matter what, we can make a friend. And I check that in my mind when I have the presentation. I go, oh, did I make a friend? And if I didn't make a friend, I'd go back again and start over and ask them questions so that I will make a friend. Because when you make a friend, you get to talk about the real stuff in life. And when you talk about real stuff in life, you will find their needs. And when you find their needs, they will get excited about the solution to what they need. Everybody has needs, do you know that? But needs minus vision gives desperation, and that's what people are feeling today. They're desperate to get their needs met, both socially and financially today. So when you find a need and you can say plus vision, that is when it starts happening. Because then they get inspiration and they get really excited and they'll actually chase you down to sign the contract. And I believe that you guys can do this. Each one teach one is the 3rd principle. Follow the system. Go into the pipeline system so that you have a clear structure on everything that you do. Here is, I'm just going to draw this really quickly, because one thing I can tell you for sure, like what would be a really good income over here in the US? Would $10,000 a month be a good income? What about $20,000 a month? How many would be excited for $20,000 a month? What about $30,000 a month? $30,000 a month, is that a good income? Okay, I have you. Okay, so one thing I can tell you is that you will never make $30,000 a month. I can promise you that. Because what you can do is that you can start one person, and that person will eventually be 2, and that person will be 4, and then it will be 8, and then it will be 16, and then eventually 32. And you can do that. But what you can't do is the second line, is when it becomes 64, 128, 256, 512, 1,024, and 2,048. You can't do that. But you need a couple of thousand people to make $30,000 a month. Could you agree with me on that? And this is why it's so important that each one teach one. Because that if everyone is implemented in the system, because the system can do this, the system have no problem of producing that. Because the system is just a whole lot of you completing the first 6 steps. And you can easily manage the first 6 steps. And if you have a system of operations where each one is teaching one, this will duplicate like Randy talked about. And you can have an amazing career. And what I want you to see is that getting 1 and getting 2 and getting 4 and getting 8 and getting 16 and 32 is the same increments as getting 64, 128, 256, 512. So if you can get 1 this week, it means that when you've completed it, going from 1 to 2, let's say that you made 1 this week and then next month you hit 2. When you've gotten to your 32 and the system kicks in, it should be the same time frame of getting from 64 to 128. Are you getting me? That is how you know that your system is working, if the speed of the growth of your organization keeps the same percentage all the time. If your speed of the growth is much faster in the beginning, it just means that you're a bit more of a hero. But when it keeps the same speed all the way through, it means that you're a bit more of a leader, because you're bringing people into the system and each one know what to do, so each one teach one is our third principle. Number 4, connecting people. Peer pressure is the greatest thing on earth. And I'm not talking about peer pressure the way kids do it, where people feel outside. I'm talking about the peer pressure that when we come into this convention, we want to be equal to our peers in incomes. We're pressuring ourselves to be like our 5 closest friends. That's why we always talk about who you hang around is going to be your average of whatever you make. And how you feel. And unfortunately, how you decide as well, if you listen to Tom. So here is the most important parts on connecting to people. And I'll sum that up in a very easy way. And that is that I want Jerry to stand up. Is Jerry in the room? There you are, front row. Look at that man there. Take a good look at him. Just keep standing. 2 years ago, I met him in this convention. And he just lost his job, and he was making $4,000 approximately a month. Is that correct? This year, he's going to hit more than $400,000. And having breakfast with him, I got to know his secret. It was one line. He said that whoever joins my team, I try to connect with them the first day. So he is connecting to people in his team, and I'm sure with the size of the team that he's got now, he's teaching that skills to the other ones. So what happens then? If somebody brand new joins, and the brand new one is 1 day old, and they've made no money, and now they're connected to their upline, which is about 1 week old, and have just made a check, but they get connected to their upline again that has been in the business for a while, and is making a steady check, and then they get connected to Jerry, and he connects them probably to somebody else as well. Now, all of a sudden, the average of the 5 people that has become their peers is making a lot more than if they're just left as an orphan on the bottom of the organization. And this is the true strength of building depth, is when you start connecting people all the way through the upline. Because all of a sudden, they know 5 people in the business. 1 brand new, their sponsor, and 3 people making good money, and 1 already being a rock star. That is quite exciting, isn't it? Because then they think, okay, all the people I know, about half of them are very successful. And if they go out with that mindset, it's going to be easier to believe that they can go to the top of the organization. And number 5, which is the most important one, is smile. The smile is the door to our attitude. And too often we think that smiling is just something we talk about. You've heard the jokes where a fake smile is better than just natural grin. Would you be with me on that? And we think that the smile doesn't actually have any science behind it. But I'll tell you, there is a lot of science behind the smile. And here's just a few of them, because let's see how it is when you communicate without a smile. Hi, Art. I really want to get together because you are so important to me. It becomes obvious when we write it down. Would you text like that? Would you Facebook like that? So stop talking like that. The Greeks made statues with a smile, the Qurans, to satisfy their gods. When people are looking to communicate with aliens, do you know what they pick to send out into the universe as the signal? A big smiley sign. It's true, so in case we find anybody, they will be happy when they meet us. In evolutionary theory, it was the best tool for protection because from distance you could see a smile and they would recognize that it was somebody friendly. But it's not only that, it's a smile, it's a grin, it's a smirk, it's a beam. And then you have the D-smile when the whole face lights up. And here is a study on women that I just think is incredible, because they took the yearbook picture of women that they've been following now for over 50 years. And after 30 years, they measured out, based on their smile in the yearbook picture, how did their life go? And they found that those that had, on the scale from 1 to 10, a nicer, warmer, more dulcet smile, is the actual term, they did better. They felt better. They got married earlier. They had happier marriages. They actually had a much better life. They had less stress. They enjoyed things more. And they picked that from the yearbook picture, and they could research and check back on the data. And that was the feedback that they got. So you should probably go home and take a look at your yearbook picture. Or maybe you would have to look at your spouse, because this is what a smile does to others. Let's look at what it does. What it does is that it reduces cardiovascular arousal when experiencing stress, activates the reward region in the frontal lobes, develop dopamine and opiates. This sounds good, dopamine. I like dopamine. And then it builds a sense of trust, and social well-being arises. The smile is the dessert of our social life. The smile is like chocolate. In an experiment where people didn't know that they were exposed to smiles, it was a masked experiment where they actually had a backdoor between the slides where they showed smiling faces, but in the speed where you couldn't pick it up. The people that saw the smiling faces felt more well-being, less stress, and were more likely to smile back when they talked to the research instructors. So when you smile, the world smiles back to you. But it doesn't stop there, because kids, babies at 1 year old, when they're put into a lab and they're put on a cliff, like a cliff over here, and they can see deep, deep down, and of course there is a glass for protection. When their mom is sitting on the other side showing fear, none of the babies crawl across the glass. But if the mom has a good dulcet smile, 80% of the babies takes a leap out and they cross the glass to go to get the warmth of their mom. So it's incredible what happens when you start smiling. And the story started in 1519. And the Mona Lisa, with its smile. And it wasn't even a brilliant smile. It was just a little bit of the opening of the lips. Was it really the smile that made everything happen? $700 million in insurance to keep it safe. What would happen when you start smiling? I think, guys, I think from what I'm seeing in this room is that we will put on a big smile and we'll get out there and we'll go and get them and we will go to the top. And I promise you, if you take these 5 behaviors, implement them and do it, you'll get an amazing result. Thank you.
Well, I hope you found that as enjoyable as I did, and I've listened to that a number of times. As I said at the beginning, there's a wealth of nuggets interwoven throughout that whole teaching. So it only remains for me to say, share this, learn from this, empower others to understand the power of personal development is what's going to be the key to their success in the business. And we invite you each week, for those who want to attend, each week, 8 p.m. UK, we hold a mindset call every week. Feed this, it builds everything else around you. If you need any help, you need any guidance, reach out to the team, the support. We're there to help each and every one of you take your businesses as far as you possibly desire. Take care, everybody, and look forward to seeing you all at an up and coming event sometime very, very soon.